Okay, I'm going to draw a diagram that explains the process of building varnish on bare wood or wood that's just been stained to the point where all the grain is filled and the surface looks like glass. So this is going to be a magnified view of what the surface of the boat looks like at the point where it's just been stained. So if you look at the surface close up, you're going to see that it's pretty rough. It's uneven. And what happens is now this is the surface of the wood. I'm just going to hatch this out here. So the blue is the surface of the wood with a little bit of stain on it. No varnish yet, or sealer. So when you come through and put that first coat of sealer on, it has thickness to it, not quite as much as the varnish, but it does have some thickness. Now if you look at all those high spots, at this point when there's only one coat of sealer on there, if you come through and take a sanding block, which I'll get right here, if you come through and take a sanding block and hit the tips of those, you're going to run the risk of burning right through that sealer and getting into the color into the wood, which is a big problem. So if we take a straight edge across here, you can see all these voids are in here. So the second coat of, when we put the second coat on of sealer, it adds a little bit more thickness. And at that point, you probably could get away with just hitting the tops, but I don't think it's necessary. So that's why after that first coat, or after the second coat of sealer, I just use a scuff pad. And the scuff pad is going to get in all these, well, it'll get in most of those low spots and dull it out and abrade it so the first coat of varnish will stick to it. So now we come along and we'll put on the first coat of schooner varnish, and it adds even more thickness. Now at this stage, this is what I'm going to take. Now that there's enough film on there, I'm going to take my sander and just hit the tops of those, okay? Not very hard at all, and I'll show you in a minute how to do that. So if you look, if we hit just some of those tops, we still have a lot of voids here, but what we're doing is, the process of building varnish is we're going to apply it, then we're going to knock off the peaks a little bit. Then we're going to apply it, it's going to fill in the low spots, and then we'll continue to knock the peaks off. So at this stage you can go ahead and hit it with some light 320 and then scuff it. So then we're going to put our second coat on, and it kind of starts evening out some of these valleys, because we're sanding off the peaks. So it's going to start to even it out a little bit. And then we're going to come through with our sanding block and we're going to knock these high spots off a little bit more. Now you can see that white area is getting smaller. That means the grain's getting filled. So after some more, we're adding it. It's starting to fill those low spots in. Now you can see that we're well above the surface of the wood, which is the cross-hatched area, the blue. We're well above that, so we can start to sand a little bit harder after 4 or 5 coats to get some of this down. Now at about, it all depends, at about 6, 7, 8 coats, you're going to get to the point where a lot of people describe it as a whiteout condition, where when you sand it, let me just run the line all across here. All the grain is totally filled. And that's when it looks like glass. And and everything is filled. All the low spots are filled, and it's one monolithic like surface. So that's when it's filled. Now at this point, I like to put on a few more coats, because this entire surface, even though we wait a couple of days and put the new coat on, it's still going to gas out a little bit. So this whole surface is going to drop a little bit. But you can see that all the low spots are filled in. We still have a good film of varnish over the high spots, and it's totally filled in. This is the goal, to get it to look like glass, that finish. So I just wanted to start the camera and show that, okay? Okay, after drawing that diagram, I thought I'd come over to the boat and show you a close-up shot of what varnish looks like on a real surface. This boat has been stained, and then I applied 2 coats of sealer and 1 coat of varnish. And here's a close-up shot of the grain. You can see it's not even close to being filled. And if you could imagine taking a cross-section across this plank and magnifying it, it's going to look real similar to that diagram. There's going to be low spots and high spots, peaks and valleys. And it's at this stage where I'll take that 320 grit block and just kind of barely pass it over the surface, knocking off any dust and just starting to hit the high spots. And then I'll come through and take that scuff pad to abrade all the valleys or the low spots. So you definitely don't want to sand too hard at this stage. The stain doesn't have much of a film over it, and there's just really no need to really push it and sand too hard and run the risk of going through and sanding off some color down to bare wood. The scuff pads work just fine for this. They'll still abrade the surface, and they actually work better than sandpaper because they're getting down in those low spots. So I just thought I'd start the camera and show you a close-up shot of that grain, okay? Okay, I just finished up with the second coat of varnish on the hull. So it now has 2 coats of sealer and 2 coats of varnish over the stain. And if you look at the surface and compare it to that earlier close-up shot after the 1 coat of varnish, you can see that the grain's a little bit smoother. It's been filled in a little bit. I'll take a shot down the hull, and you can really start to see the shape of the boat. All that work that went into fairing it is starting to pay off. You could see the lines and the curves a lot better once it has some gloss on it. So with every sanding and with every coat of varnish, this grain is going to get filled in more and more until it's all smooth and it all looks like glass. So I'll let this cure for a couple of days, and then I'll sand it and put another coat on it. All right?